Yo guys, it's Thomas Apologia, and today we are going to be reacting to Shaykh Uthman, who presents possibly the best argument for Islam against Christianity that I have ever heard. Guys, I am on the edge of taking my shahada right now just from the excellent arguments of this man alone. So let's roll the clip.
What is a Muslim? Most people are under this misconception that a Muslim is like somebody after the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, or like an Arab. That's not what a Muslim is. By definition, anybody who submits themselves to their creator, to submit, then you become a Muslim. So if you look at Abraham or Moses or Jesus, all of them, they did the work of their creator. They submitted themselves to their creator. So they were all Muslim. Like, we believe in the same religion they believe.
Guys, I have to admit it. Shaykh Uthman's sheer intelligence, his brain power, his perspicuity, his talent is beyond my understanding. I think it's time that I have to convert. Whoa, guys, before the Christian community gets onto me, I'm just playing.
Here's a number.
What's that shit say?
Psych! That's the wrong number!
Now that we got the jokes out of the way, guys, let's actually get into the video. So, Shaykh Uthman says that Jesus submitted to God, but the definition of Muslim is someone who submits to God. Therefore, Jesus definitionally is a Muslim. Moses definitionally is a Muslim. And therefore, they have the same religion as me, Shaykh Uthman. They're all Muslims. They follow Islam. Well, there's a problem with that, right?
I don't want peace. I want problems, always.
And the problem is, it's obviously an equivocation fallacy. I don't know how this man doesn't know that this is just a terrible argument. So, to help understand this, let's syllogize his argument, right? It's premise one, a Muslim is someone who submits to God, okay? Premise two, Jesus submitted to God. Conclusion, therefore, Jesus is a Muslim because of the definition in premise one. But Shaykh Uthman is trying to arrive at the conclusion that Jesus believes in the same religion as him, and Moses believes in the same religion as him, and everyone else, so forth. And he's doing what we call an equivocation fallacy. It's where in one segment of the argument, in one premise, one portion of the argument, you are using one of the terms one way, and in the other portion of the argument, you're using it another way. So in Uthman's first premise, he's using Muslim as someone who just submits to God. But in the second premise, when he says Jesus submitted to God, or in his conclusion, right, in his conclusion, when he says, therefore Jesus was a Muslim, he changes the definition of Muslim now to be someone who follows the religion of Islam and its core teachings. Well, the problem with that is you've just switched out the definitions of the terms, which means that he's committing a logical fallacy here. It's like if I were to say, trees have bark and dogs bark, therefore dogs are trees. Well, obviously that doesn't follow because I'm using the term bark differently here, which is exactly what Shaykh Uthman's doing. It's a logical fallacy.
The problem got to be people corrupted their message later.
Yes, the good old claim that the Bible was corrupted, therefore Islam is true. Well, the obvious problem here is that Shaykh Uthman doesn't actually give any justification for this claim in the video. All he does is make the baseless assertion that the Bible is corrupted, but he doesn't give any evidence for that claim. Now, we can give evidence in the positive that the Bible is not corrupted. So, for example, there's more manuscripts of the New Testament than any other document in ancient history. And also, according to Bart Ehrman and Dr. Bruce Metzger in the book The Text of the New Testament, they say if all other sources for our knowledge of the text of the New Testament were destroyed, the patristic quotations going back to the 2nd century, and in some cases even the 1st century, would be sufficient alone for the reconstruction of practically the entire New Testament. So, unless Shaykh Uthman actually gives positive evidence for this claim, we can simply dismiss it as a baseless assertion.
Like, look at Jesus. Jesus, in the Bible, he prayed falling head down, putting his head on the ground. But most churches, have you seen anybody pray with their head down? No.
Jesus prayed similar to Muslims. Therefore, he follows the ideology of Islam. Wow. That argument is just incredible. Hats off to you. But obviously the problem with that is that Jesus prays in multiple positions throughout the New Testament, such as in Mark chapter 11, verse 25 to 26. He prays whilst he's standing. In John chapter 17, he prays while his head is facing towards the heavens. Also, your argument assumes that Christians have never prayed in this way, but actually Christians have been praying in this way for thousands of years. Just because it's not in your common daily experience with the Christians that you meet doesn't mean that we haven't been doing this. In fact, we've been doing this 600 years before Islam was even a religion. And furthermore, you could use the same type of argument to prove that Jesus was all sorts of religions. Jesus prayed with his head facing the ground. Therefore, he's a Hindu. Therefore, he's Jewish. Therefore, he's Catholic. Therefore, he's Muslim. Do you see how this type of argument is just fallacious?
Right? You see them like singing or dancing, but not the way Jesus prayed. How did Jesus dress? How did Jesus look? You look at a priest today, they don't look like Jesus. They don't emulate him in his appearance. If you look at how Jesus lived a kosher lifestyle, most Christians don't keep to the kosher laws anymore. Jesus was circumcised. These people are not circumcised. Why? Because they took that religion and then they infused paganism into it.
Okay, he says a whole bunch of stuff here, mainly to do with the civil and ceremonial laws of the Old Covenant. So let's get into that. Why don't Christians circumcise? Why don't Christians eat in a kosher way? Well, for starters, Jesus says in Mark chapter 7, listen to me, everyone, and understand this. Nothing outside a person can defile them by going into them. Rather, it is what comes out of a person that defiles them. Now, Christians don't believe that the civil and ceremonial laws of the Old Covenant are still binding on them because the law is fulfilled in Jesus. Christians follow the law of Christ in the New Covenant, which is why in Galatians chapter 6 verse 2 it says, bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. Now, I'm not sure why Shaykh Uthman is trying to argue in this way. It's almost like the argument is, if you follow the law of Jesus, if you follow the law that Jesus was following at his time, therefore you belong to the same religion as Jesus and you have the same ideology as him. Why is this the argument? Muhammad didn't follow the same law that Jesus was following. In the law of Moses, it says that you cannot eat camel meat according to Leviticus chapter 11. Yet we see in the Hadith literature that Muhammad clearly ate camel meat going against this law. So I don't understand that. And then he says that Christianity borrowed these things and added pagan things into their religion. Well, you have to prove that. You can't just assert a claim which is baseless. You actually have to prove that. So, in short, this whole video of Shaykh Uthman saying Jesus was a Muslim is a baseless assertion.